Most people think the key to wealth is spending less money. Cut the coffee, skip the vacation, penny pinch your way to riches. But what if I told you that's exactly backwards? What if the real secret isn't spending less, but spending smarter? Here's something that might shock you. The ultra-wealthy don't focus on cutting expenses. They focus on something called productive spending. While you're clipping coupons, they're using their expenses to create income streams, build assets, and accelerate their wealth at speeds that would make your head spin. Today, I'm going to show you the productive spending framework. This is the system wealthy people use to turn every dollar they spend into a wealth-building tool. And the best part? You don't need millions to start. You just need to understand the difference between expenses that make you poorer and expenses that make you richer. By the end of this video, you'll know how to flip your entire relationship with money. Instead of seeing expenses as wealth killers, you'll see them as wealth builders. Let's get into it. Here's where most financial advice gets it completely wrong. They tell you wealth comes from spending less. Save 10% of your income. Cut unnecessary expenses. Live below your means. But think about this logically. If cutting expenses was the path to wealth, why aren't the most frugal people the richest? Why do you know people who've been penny pinching for decades and still live paycheck to paycheck? The problem is that conventional wisdom treats all expenses the same. Whether you spend $500 on a vacation or $500 on something that generates income, traditional advice says both are just expenses. But wealthy people see these as completely different categories. There are three types of expenses that most people don't distinguish between. First, survival expenses. These are things like housing, food, and transportation. You need these to live. Second, lifestyle expenses. These make life enjoyable but don't build wealth. Entertainment, dining out, hobbies. Third, and this is the key, productive expenses. These are expenses that create assets, generate income, or build your wealth over time. The middle class focuses on cutting lifestyle expenses. The wealthy focus on maximizing productive expenses. That's the fundamental difference that creates the wealth gap. When you only think about spending less, you're playing defense with your money. But wealth isn't built on defense, it's built on offense. And productive spending is how you go on offense. So what exactly is productive spending? It's any expense that either creates an asset, generates future income, or improves your ability to earn more money. Think of it as spending money to make money. Let me give you some examples. If you spend $1,000 on a vacation, that's a lifestyle expense. You get enjoyment, but no financial return. But if you spend $1,000 on a course that teaches you a high-income skill, that's productive spending. That investment could generate tens of thousands in additional income. Here's another example. Buying a $50,000 car for status is lifestyle spending. But buying a $50,000 property as a rental investment is productive spending. One depreciates and costs you money every month. The other appreciates and pays you every month. The wealthy think in terms of return on investment for everything they buy. They ask, will this expense make me more money than it costs? If yes, they spend without hesitation. If no, they think twice. But here's where it gets interesting. Sometimes the same expense can be productive or non-productive depending on how you use it. A $2,000 laptop for gaming is lifestyle spending. The same laptop used to start a side business is productive spending. The item is identical, but the purpose changes everything. This is why wealthy people often seem to spend freely on certain things while being very careful about others. They're not being inconsistent, they're being strategic. They spend aggressively on things that build wealth and carefully on things that don't. Now let's break down the four main categories of productive spending. Understanding these will change how you look at every purchase decision. Category 1 is income-generating assets. These are expenses that buy you things which produce cash flow. Real estate rentals, dividend stocks, business equipment that generates revenue. The key is that these assets pay you back over time, often exceeding your initial investment. Category 2 is skill and knowledge investments. This includes education, courses, certifications, coaching, and books. These expenses increase your earning potential. A $5,000 course that helps you earn an extra $20,000 per year is a phenomenal return on investment. Category 3 is business and career investments. These are expenses that help you start a business, grow an existing one, or advance your career. Office equipment, professional development, networking events, business tools, anything that increases your professional value or business income. Category 4 is efficiency and time-saving investments. These expenses buy you time or make you more efficient, which you can then use to generate more income. A house cleaner that gives you 5 extra hours per week to work on your side business. Software that automates tasks in your business. Even a reliable car that gets you to high-paying jobs consistently. The key insight is that productive spending often looks like regular spending to outside observers. But the intent and result are completely different. You're not just buying something, you're investing in your future wealth. Let me show you how this works in the real world. Wealthy individuals and families allocate their spending completely differently than most people. The average person might spend 70% on survival needs, 25% on lifestyle, and maybe 5% on productive investments. But wealthy families often flip this. They minimize lifestyle spending and maximize productive spending. Here's a real example. Instead of buying an expensive primary residence, many wealthy people buy a modest home and use the extra money to purchase rental properties. Their housing expense becomes an investment vehicle. The rental income often covers the mortgage payments, and they build equity in multiple properties instead of just one. Or consider how they handle transportation. Instead of financing a luxury car, they might buy a reliable used vehicle and invest the difference in income-producing assets. They understand that cars are depreciating assets, so they minimize that expense and redirect the money toward appreciating assets. Wealthy people also think differently about business expenses. They're willing to spend $10,000 on a marketing campaign if they expect it to generate $30,000 in revenue. To most people, $10,000 feels like a huge expense. To the wealthy, it's a 200% return on investment. They also invest heavily in relationships and network building. Expensive dinners, event tickets, club memberships. These might look like lifestyle expenses, but they're strategic investments in relationships that lead to business opportunities and partnerships. The key pattern is that wealthy people are always asking, how can this expense help me make more money? They see every purchase through the lens of wealth building. Now, how do you apply this framework to your own finances? Start by categorizing your current expenses. Go through your bank statements from the last 3 months and classify each expense as survival, lifestyle, or productive. Most people are shocked to discover how little they spend on productive expenses. Don't worry if this describes you. Awareness is the first step to change. Next, identify opportunities to convert lifestyle expenses into productive expenses. Instead of spending $200 per month on entertainment, what if you spent $100 on entertainment and $100 on skill development? You're spending the same amount, but half of it now builds your wealth. Look for ways to make necessary expenses do double duty. If you need a vehicle, consider one you could use for ride-sharing or delivery services. If you need a home, consider one with a rentable basement or spare room. Turn expenses into income streams whenever possible. Start small with productive spending. You don't need to invest thousands right away. Buy books instead of watching TV. Take online courses instead of scrolling social media. Attend networking events instead of going to bars. Small shifts in spending habits can create big changes in wealth over time. Also, track the return on your productive spending. If you spend $500 on a course, measure how much additional income it generates. This helps you identify which types of productive spending work best for you and guides future investment decisions. Let me warn you about the most common mistakes people make when trying to implement productive spending. First, they try to change everything at once. Don't do this. Start with small changes and build momentum over time. Second, they don't track results. Productive spending only works if it actually produces results. If you spend money on education but never apply what you learn, it's just expensive entertainment. Always measure the return on your investment. Third, they confuse productive spending with regular spending by giving it a fancy label. Buying an expensive laptop for business when you only use it for Netflix isn't productive spending. Be honest about your true motivations. Fourth, they ignore the opportunity cost. Every dollar you spend on one thing is a dollar you can't spend on something else. Make sure your productive spending choices offer the best return compared to other options. Fifth, they don't set boundaries. It's easy to justify any purchase as productive when you want something badly enough. Set clear criteria for what counts as productive spending and stick to them. The biggest mistake is thinking productive spending means spending more money overall. That's not the goal. The goal is spending the same amount of money but getting better returns on that spending. Here's what we've covered today. The path to wealth isn't about spending less money. It's about spending money more productively. While most people see expenses as wealth killers, the wealthy see them as wealth builders. The productive spending framework has 4 categories. Income-generating assets, skill and knowledge investments, business and career investments, and efficiency and time-saving investments. Every expense should be evaluated through the lens of return on investment. Start by categorizing your current expenses. Identify opportunities to convert lifestyle spending into productive spending. Look for ways to make necessary expenses generate income. Start small, track your results, and avoid the common mistakes that derail most people. Remember, this isn't about depriving yourself. It's about getting more value from every dollar you spend. It's about turning your expenses from wealth drains into wealth builders. The wealthy have been using these strategies for generations. Now you know their secret. The question is, what will you do with this knowledge? If you found this valuable, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Your wealth building journey starts with your next purchase decision. Make it a productive one.